Tell me a story. Let's begin. Adventures to tell and tales to spin. Once upon a time, there was a man whose wife had passed away, leaving him with just the one daughter. The daughter had a friend whose father had passed away, but whose mother yet lived. And the two girls were like peas in a pod, inseparable, always spending time either at the one house or the other. And one day, when they were at the house of the girl whose mother yet lived, the mother said to the girl, "Girl, tell your father that if he marries me, you shall be treated even better than my own daughter, with only the finest foods to eat and wine to drink, while my own daughter will just get standard fare." And so the girl passed that message along to her dad, and the dad, he was not real keen on the idea. He didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings, so he said, "Tell you what, take this boot. It has a hole in the toe. I want you to fill the boot to the rim with water and then hang it on a nail in the attic. If in the morning the boot still has water in it, I'll marry her. And if it's empty, then I won't." So the girl did as he asked, filled the boot to the rim with water, hung it on the nail in the attic. And the next morning when she went to check, the boot was still full of water, because you see, the water had made the leather swell and close the hole. And so the man had to do as he had promised, and he married the woman. And at first, she did treat his daughter far better even than she treated her own, with only the finest foods and wines to drink, foods to eat and wines to drink. But it didn't take long before she treated both girls equally. But then the girl's father died, and now it was just the stepmother and the two girls. And the stepmother's behavior changed again. Now, the man's daughter received the coarsest of fares, water to drink, while her own daughter received the finest foods and wine to drink. And the words they each heard each day were quite different as well. You see, the man's daughter was growing quite lovely, and her kind heart made her face seem even more lovely to those who knew her. While the mom's daughter, well, she was a bit too much like her mother, and so people did not find her quite so beautiful. And that worried the stepmother, because she wanted her own daughter to be able to have the best in life, of course. Not unlike most mothers. Though, how to go about it, right? And over time, the stepmother's jealousy grew until she couldn't bear it anymore. And so one winter's day, she said to the man's daughter, here's a paper dress. I want you to wear it. Go out into the forest. Don't return until you have filled this basket with strawberries. Ripe strawberries. Here's a lunch for you." And she gave her a lump of bread and a bottle of water. Frightened and unsure what to do, the man's daughter took the basket and the food and went out into the snowy forest to look for strawberries. But strawberries don't grow in winter. And so she was frozen through almost by the time she got to a little cottage where she saw 3 men looking out their window. And she went to their door, shivering, and knocked. "Oh, please, can I stay here and warm myself by your fire for just a little bit while I eat my food?" "Yes, of course. Come in," said the man. And so she went in. "Oh, thank you for letting me warm myself. Here, let me share I'm sorry it's not much, but I'll be happy to share my lunch with you." And so she gave each of them an equal piece of her bread and had a little bit for herself, and shared the water likewise. "Tell us, why are you in the forest in a paper dress in the middle of winter?" "Oh," said the girl, "well, my stepmother sent me out to find strawberries, and I'm not allowed to come home until I've filled this basket with ripe strawberries," said the girl. Said the men. They looked at each other. "Tell you what, take that broom, go out back and sweep away the snow," said the men. "Oh, okay," said the girl. And so she took the broom and she swept away the snow, and to her great surprise, there were strawberries, lots and lots of strawberries growing there under the snow. And inside, the men were watching her, and they said to each other, "What shall we give her for her kindness?" And the one said, "I will make her more beautiful with every day that passes." And the second said, "I will make gold coins fall from her mouth each word she speaks." And the third said, "I will have her marry a kind and handsome king and live a happy life." Not bad. The girl, not so little anymore, the girl did not know that. And so she brought back the broom and said, "Oh, may I have some of those strawberries?" And the man said, "Yes, fill your basket and go on home." And so the girl filled the basket full of great joy and gratitude and hurried home to show her stepmother that she had indeed found fresh strawberries. The stepmother was not exactly expecting to see her again at all, let alone with a basket of strawberries in winter. And so she wanted the girl to tell her absolutely everything about where she'd found it. And even greater was the surprise when every word the girl spoke, a gold coin fell from her mouth. That night, when the stepsister and the stepmother were talking with each other, the stepsister said, "I want to have gold coins fall from my mouth too, Mother." "Yes," said the stepmother, "and you shall. I will make you a warm dress so that you may go out into the forest and find strawberries as well." And so all night the stepmother stayed up, sewing a luxurious warm gown for the girl to wear out into the forest, and she packed her a lunch with the most delicious of cakes and goodies and things that she could eat, and a bottle of wine. And she gave her a basket for the strawberries and said, "Now, my dear daughter, go out into the forest and fill the basket with strawberries." And the girl went out, and knowing exactly where to go, because she'd listened to everything that her stepsister had said, she went straight to the cottage and knocked on the door. And when the men answered, she said, "I'm here to warm myself by your fire." Well, yes, come in," said the men. "Thank you," said the girl, and she plunked herself down in front of the fire and began to eat. But she did not even think to offer to share. And the three men said to her, "What brings you out into the forest?"
"Oh, I'm supposed to fill this basket with strawberries."
"I see," said the men. "Well, take that broom, sweep the snow from out back, and you may keep what you find."
"Oh, okay,"
said the girl, and out she went and swept away the snow, and sure enough, she found strawberries, just as her sister had. But, unbeknownst to her, the men were talking while they watched. "What'll you give her for being so rude and unkind?" And the first one said, "I'm going to make her uglier with every day that passes." And the other said, "I'm going to make a toad fall from her mouth each word she speaks." And the third said, "I will eventually give her a painful death." So, the girl had no idea what was going on, but filled her basket with strawberries and hurried home. But what a surprise when she greeted her mother, and whoa, a toad fell from her mouth. And so, with every word, another toad fell from her mouth, and so she didn't really want to tell the story with very many words. That was not great. And now they were even more jealous, and they made the girl's life even more difficult. One day, when the daughter of the man was out washing wool that had been dyed in the creek, the handsome king happened to be riding by, and he was enchanted by her beauty when she looked up. And so he decided to stop and see, and she would say hi. And when she spoke, he was even more amazed to see that gold coins fell from her mouth with each word. But better yet was that her kindness shone through her whole being, and she was intelligent and good to talk with. And so he asked her, "Would you come with me to my castle so that I can know you better?" And the girl, fairly eager at this point to be out of her stepmother's house, readily agreed. And so arrangements were made, and she went to live in the castle. And after they had gotten to know each other a while, and the king asked her to marry him, she was delighted to say yes. And about a year later, she gave birth to a beautiful, healthy baby boy. But now what happened with the stepmother and stepsister, you see, their story is not quite done. They came to visit on hearing that the girl with the new queen, for now she was queen, was having a baby. And when the baby was born, they insisted that they must speak with their dear daughter and sister alone. And as soon as everyone was out of the room, they took the young queen from her bed and threw her out of the window to what would undoubtedly have been her death if it had not been for the protection of the magic of the little men, because instead of dying, she was transformed into a swan. And so the stepsister crept into the bed and pretended, they went on to pretend, that she, the stepsister, was the queen. And the stepmother told everyone, "Oh, she's ill after the difficult childbirth. We must give her rest." And so everyone thought that the haggard appearance of the young woman and the toads were just symptoms of an illness. But that night, a boy who worked in the kitchens happened to be looking out over the waters of the moat when he saw a lovely swan gliding toward him. And to his great surprise, when the swan came all the way up to the castle, it was transformed into the beautiful young queen. And she said to him, "Boy, does my son yet live?" "Uh-huh. Yes, your majesty." "Can you take me to him?" And so the boy led her to her son, and she fed him so that he would not want for anything, and laid him to rest in his bed and kissed his little head. And then she returned to the moat where she once more became a swan. This happened again the next night, but this time, before transforming back into the swan, she said, "Boy, what does my husband think has become of me?" "Well, he thinks the queen is sick, but, I don't know." "I see. Can you have my husband be here with you tomorrow night? And when I arrive, have him swing his sword over my head 3 times. Okay, said the boy. And she turned into the swan once more. Oh, for a scullery boy to get a king to do anything is not necessarily an easy feat, but somehow the kitchen boy managed it, and the king was waiting with him by the moat when the swan came. And the boy said to him, "Now you gotta swing your sword over the swan's head 3 times. And the king said, "Okay." And he did swing once, twice, 3 times, and with the 3rd swing, the swan melted away, and there stood his wife. "Thank you. You've broken the spell. And to you, to the boy, thank you." And the king said, "But how did this happen?" And she explained to him, with gold coins falling from her mouth once more, about how her stepmother and stepsister had pushed her out the window. And the king wanted to go at once and avenge her. She said, "No, husband, please. Just take me to my son. There's got to be a better way." And then he thought, "I know just what to do. You stay hidden." To the boy, "Shh." And so the queen, with her son, happily and safely with her, hid herself, while the king called for the stepmother to come and speak with him, and said to her, "Well, so I have a very difficult case that has been brought to me, and I was hoping that you might be able to share some of your wisdom with me." "Oh," said the stepmother, "I am happy to help. Well, what would you recommend be the punishment for someone who has attempted to kill someone else and then impersonated them to take their place?" "Oh," said the stepmother without hesitation, "well, such a person deserves nothing less than the most painful death imaginable." "Oh," said the king. "Done. You've just chosen your own fate. Get your daughter. Let's go." And so, stepmother and stepsister received the painful death that the 3 little men, or the 3 men had promised. And the queen, king, and their children, because I'm sure that was not their last, lived happily after all. And the kitchen boy was very happy too, because his station became much better in life after that. And snip, snap, snout, now the story is out. Tip, tap, tin, soon a new one will begin.